Hey everyone, AJ here, trying something a little different today. Okay, so I just seen Star vs. the Forces of Evil, the season premiere Battle for Mewni, and at first I liked it, but then after giving it some thought, I realized it was flawed. Again, not necessarily saying it's terrible, but after hearing the amount of reviews online and looking back at it, it definitely I think could have been better. But it still didn't mean I think I didn't like it. And personally, I think for everything that there was not to like about this special, there was more than enough to like. So for this Thursday's video, I thought I'd give a quick little top 5 favorite and least favorite things from Star vs. the Forces of Evil, the Battle for Mewni. And to make this list a little more interesting, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to start by doing first my least favorite, then my favorite moment, starting with my number 1 worst moment, and starting with number 5 best moment. So hopefully we'll end this on a more positive note. But anyway, here we go. Number 1, worst. No battle. Yeah, this one's kind of hard to ignore. And when you really get down to it, the whole thing was advertised as the Battle for Mewni. Okay, where's the battle? I mean, it seems like they were setting stuff up, but when you get down to it, there really was no big epic battle. There was sort of confrontation with the monster here, and Ludo then brings in the wrath, but we never see the battle. I mean, it's my biggest problem, especially when you consider just how much hype and build-up went into this. But I suppose that even though this is my number 1, there are some other gripes, but yeah, this is still my biggest problem with the special. Number 5, best. Ludo versus the book. Yeah, I kind of was torn between putting either this one or my number 4 choice where it was, but I kind of decided to back it up only to number 5 for a very particular reason. Basically, it's all more just funny rather than important. Okay, yeah, it is important because Ludo destroys the book to allow Toffee full control, but it kind of has a nitpick of just seeing how Glossaric just so easily accepts his death. Or rather, at least not just tell Ludo that Toffee is controlling him. I mean, Glossaric has always kind of confused me. On one hand, he's kind of interesting, kind of like a mentor with some bigger plans, but then other times he's kind of like some emotionless robot. Kind of confuses me. But it's still on my number 5 favorite list because this scene is as funny as hell. Seeing Ludo trying to struggle right into the book and thrown off, and then his great big emotional breakdown near the end just before he destroys the book can really tug at your heartstrings. And this was only my number 5 favorite. Number 2, worst. The Idiot King. Here I thought we were past this. Okay, so what puts this at number 2? Well, one of the particular reasons why I didn't put this at number 3 more was because in the second episode, we saw Star's father as actually a rather supportive and interesting character. I mean, he was supportive of Moon, he was definitely shy, and he had a lot of growth to go. He was actually a really kind of likable character you sympathized with and even liked in the beginning. And then in the very next episode, what do we get? The typical sitcom father. Oh, this was so hard to watch. I mean, good grief. One episode before, I was really starting to like him. And then the next, he was just a complete idiot. I mean, oh, next one. Number 4 favorite. Talking Katrina. Nothing. There's not much more really to say. It's cute, adorable, and she even gets a funny line in. Next. Number 3, worst. No Starco. Okay. I know this probably sounds a bit anal of me, but let's back up a little bit and actually see why this is list worthy. In the season finale of Season 2, we had a lot going on, but I think one of the biggest things was the fact that Star actually confessed that she had a crush on Marco, which is something really minor about the show of how much it could just break the mold. I mean, let's be honest, in any other show like this, they would have held this off at least until the second to last season. But what's a good thing about Star vs. the Forces of Evil is just how much, like I said, it can break the mold. But then for the fact that pretty much during this whole special, this one big scene that pretty much made like the Season 2 finale one of my personal favorites only next to Gravity Falls, it just kind of goes nowhere. I guess you're saving this more for later in the season, and it was part of the reason why I didn't put it at number 2 or 1. It's still kind of was disappointed for how much this was built up. Number 3, favorite. Toffee's return, Star's death. Okay, for as much as I complain that there is no climax, it makes up for it just a little bit with this one scene here. So pretty much all looks bad. Toffee has just returned, and the scene that falls is just epic. We see Moon completely crushed, going almost all. We see Marco punching him through the chest, Ludo wondering if he was any purpose, and then kind of everything afterwards, I guess, was okay and good. But like I said, I kind of wish that there was a bit of a more climactic battle, but for what we got, I suppose it was better than nothing. Number 4, worst. The Resistance. What is it about this special? Particularly with doing something good and then suddenly doing it bad. I mean, first you had the King actually looking interesting and then just making him a typical sitcom father. And then you have these rebellion musicians who, at first, I really liked them and on board with. But as the episode went further and further on, they just got more cringy and annoying. Like going from this rather interesting ragtag group of rebels to, I'm not sure what the right word for it, but it kind of felt like they were going more for just being comedic rather than being interesting and likable. And that's really a shame because, like I said, at first I was rather invested in them, but as the special went on, they just got worse and worse. Number 2, best. Eclipsa. Oh boy, this I was really looking forward to, especially when me and Rosie were talking about in the episode with, I forget what that cat thing, hero, whatever episode was, but I remember talking to Rosie about that, and whether it was foreshadowing Star going evil or Eclipse's return. And looks like Eclipse is coming back. Although what I particularly liked about Eclipse and what made me put her at number 2 was how she was when she was introduced. One of the great things about Star vs. the Force of Evil is it's not necessarily a black and white series. There's a lot of gray in it, whether it be from the monsters or the Mewnis themselves technically just taking over, both sides really just looking out for their families. There's a lot of times where there's no definite good or really evil, but in a way that kids can, if not understand, at least not be overwhelmed with. Especially here with Eclipsa. You think at first she's kind of going to be like this super sinister character, but from the way she's portrayed, she makes her kind of interesting. A part of me feels like it's more like she's just being manipulative rather than actually being sympathetic. But again, considering how Star vs. the Force of Evil go, I'd actually be more looking forward to if we saw Eclipsa being more interesting, more complex. Yeah, still clearly being evil, but maybe having another side of her story. Number 5, actually quick honorable mention, Star and Moon in this episode. What kept them off the list was the fact that technically they're not out of character, but particularly in the first episode, oh jeez. So basically the Queen's idea is to hide out and leave her kingdom unprotected, while Star's idea is just to rush into battle with no idea. Again, I give it a little leeway because I can understand Moon wanting to protect her daughter and Star wanting to at least do something, but geez, some of the choices that are made. Anyway, number 5, real worst, Ludo at the very end. And then you just zoom again and why? Okay, this felt like really weak writing. I mean, pretty much after all that Ludo's been through, they just sort of throw him back into the portal. Like, okay, you served your part, now we got no purpose for you. Didn't all that character development lead up to anything? Oh, geez, I suppose when all things considered, it's not my least favorite thing of the episode. But, Star, you got a lot to do to possibly convince me that I'm really gonna like your season from here out. But then at least there's my number 1 favorite thing. Of course, there's a quick honorable mention, and that would have to go to Toffee's first introduction. It wasn't good enough for me to leave an impression to officially put it on the list, but this encounter was still pretty memorable enough to add it in. Anyway, my number 1 favorite thing about the battle for Mewni is Moon versus Buckfrog. Oh yeah. Like I said with Eclipsa, one of my favorite things about Star vs. the Forces of Evil is that it's not necessarily all the time about good and evil. There's a lot of gray, a lot of here and there, a lot of one side is more just looking out for their people and family. Hard to say that you wouldn't do that if you were in this situation. And that's really shown in this scene. Basically, while Star's trying to escape, Buckfrog is distracting the Queen by playing a monster game. What's particularly amazing is how we see how both cultures look at each other just by the way they play their games, and the dialogue that's suspended between these two sort of shows them as very similar. They're both just parents looking out for their children, but both have a strong prejudice against each other for understandable reasons. For all the flaws the Battle of Mewni had, this one scene here makes all up for it. So what did you think? Did I necessarily miss anything? Or did you think I could add? Leave it down below, and hopefully I'll see you guys next week.